Let's gonna revisit how we can work with inputs in Framer, because as we said previously, there's no easy way to work with them. So you need to add a layer with an action, and when you press this action, you need to show the keyboard manually. So that works, but also if you are in a mobile, it's showing an image, so it's not a real keyboard that you can use. So it kind of works, but it's not the optimal situation. So I recently created a component for Framer, a module that helps us to do this, to achieve this. So I'm gonna try to explain how we can use it. So the first thing that you would need to do is to search for this component, for this module. You can go to github.com/agmix, that's my username, /input-framer, as you can see here on the address bar. Or you can probably in Google search input framer and you will find, let's try it, input framer. Yes, and you see the first result, it's my module. So once we have reached here, we can download the zip file with all the components, with all the files. So after being downloaded, we extract it, we open it, and we have several files. Basically, we just need two of them. One is the input.coffee and the other one is the keyboard.png. That's the keyboard that will appear when the user is not on mobile. So when the user is trying the prototype in a browser or directly with Framer. So if you are gonna present your prototype just to mobile users, if you do a user test, for example, with mobile users, they will not need this image. So I'm gonna copy those files to the modules folder inside my Framer project. So inside the Framer project, as we've seen already, there is a modules folder. I'm gonna move those files here, and we already have this input.coffee and the image. Now we can go to Framer Studio, and where we have I have this example application where we have one field here that we want to be interactable. Right now it doesn't do anything. As you see in the code, I just have the image, so I didn't do much there. What we're gonna do now is to actually load the module. So we're gonna do input module equals require input. Input is the name of the module that we have here, input.coffee. So we just need to put the input. Now we can easily start adding the input. So for example, for the email address, I'm gonna say email input equals new input module, because we are accessing the module, dot input, because I want to create a new input. And now we can set the properties. We can go to the documentation here, and we can see which properties are available for us. So we have the setup that says change to true when positioning the input, so you can see it. That's actually what we want to do. So we want to say setup true, and we see now that the input is here. Then we have virtual keyboard, enable or disable the virtual keyboard that by default is true. So by default we have the virtual keyboard. We can actually try it. We have our input here because we're in the setup mode. That's what we see, why we see it. And if we click, we see the keyboard appear. As you see, the image is not right because I'm using the iPhone 5 and the screen ratio is different. So if we would like to do our prototype with an iPhone 5, we would need to actually change the keyboard image. So we would need to use an image for the iPhone 5. But for now it's okay. I'm just using this iPhone 5 design because it had two inputs and it was easy for me for this lesson. So as you see, when we lost the focus of the input, the keyboard goes away. Now that we are in setup mode, we can actually put it in the right position. So we're gonna say the Y position will be 100, a little bit more. We need it over the email address input, so 340. Actually, we see it there. and the X position will be 40. Okay, then the width will be more. Okay, I think that's enough. As you see now, we have the input over the email address, so we can now remove the setup. If we remove the setup, we don't see anymore the input, but the input is still there. If you see, when I move my mouse over the input, it changes as an input. So if I click now in the email address, sorry, I need to save. Okay, now I click on the email address and the keyboard appears. So I can even start typing. As you see, the position is not really correct. It's not really what we want, because we want a little bit of padding inside, but we can easily modify that with the position. We can say setup true. Now we see the input again, and we can modify the position to be a little bit more. Let's see, a little bit more. Okay. I think there's a problem with this version that I'm using of Framerjs Studio, that I need to actually save in order for the keyboard to appear, because that wasn't like this previously, so it should be a bug with this version. Okay, so now I click and I can start typing. But well, we have a problem here. We have the placeholder, because it's embedded in the image. The image already had this placeholder, so we could actually solve it in a very easy way. We could actually remove it from the image. I'm not gonna do it now, but we could remove it from the image, from this login.jpg image, take it out from here, and we can use one of the properties that we have in the input. We have placeholder and placeholder color, so we can put it there instead. Yeah, okay, and instead of username will be email address, and the placeholder color will be something, I don't know, let's say it's something like this. So we have now our placeholder, and when we start typing, the placeholder goes away. So you see, it allows you to a lot of customization, so you can remove you can easily make the inputs in your prototypes. It also allows styling, so you can style your input very easily. We can change things like font size, line height, padding, color, etc. So you can actually change your input. Let's try something. Let's try, for example, the color. Let's do email input dot style equals, and here we say color blue. So now when we start typing, you see the color of the input changes to blue. And if we see this prototype on a mobile device, we will see that once we click on the input, instead of getting this image, we get the real keyboard and the user can type in. So that's what we actually want to have. Another thing we can do with the input is to actually retrieve the value. So let's add an event to the email input dot on, and I don't know if there is events dot key. No, there is no key app. So we have to actually do it like this, setting up the direct text instead of events.click like we were doing, or events.something .click. For example, instead of doing this, we can actually do the direct name. So we could do this and it will also work, or we can do key app for the event of releasing the key. So we're gonna say email input dot on key app, comma, and what's gonna happen. Let's see if it works. We're gonna print 1, and as we see, it's printing 1, so it works. Instead of printing 1, we're gonna print the value of the input. So we're gonna say this value, and now we can type, and we have here the value. So you see, it's really easy to get the value of the user, the value that the user is actually typing. And remember, the at means this, so it means the layer that we are referring is the same as doing this. We could also do this and it would also work. So those are the things you can do with the input module. It's a module, it's really flexible, you can reuse it everywhere, and it really helps you working with the inputs.